People, let's talk about the Elohim and the Emmanuel Igigi gods. Hello, my people. From this, the darkness, here is the wonderful ray of light on your question. There ever seems to be a mystery about the Elohim God race and what they looked like. Why did they say that mankind looked like them? But then the stories later on show them to be of different appearances. For example, at the time when man was being cloned, the result came in, and the gods were prideful that man was made in his own image, the image of God, even down to their color, which was the color of the earth. He was that reddish brown clay, similar to that of some tribes in Africa today. Well, we often use the words black and white, so let's continue here. Man was reddish brown skinned, like the gods, and had all the Elohim appearance, except that he grew hair on his face and other parts. He was also born with foreskin on his private parts. That was close enough. And to the gods, it was nothing that a little shaving and circumcision would not fix. Red clay goes across a wide spectrum from lighter to darker. Sometimes, even though it is red, it gives the appearance of darker or lighter brown shoe color. There is no one appeal of dark reddish clay or reddish clay. Africans all have reddish red clay appeal. No matter how he is black to you, you see that brown reddish tone in him. But that deeper dark tone comes from a green or blue hue, which is case for another story of Earthman's past. There are reddish African tribes that more closely befit the description of the first prototype and also the tone of the gods Elohim. The white man or the albino is simply born with less of his dark red tone, and this is caused by a random effect of ancient miscegenation that we all suffered on our whole. When Noah was born as white, just like Jacob twin Aisha, his father claimed that he had the appearance of the gods. What caused this confusion? Well, there is even another confusion. Why did the Elohim create the world? But when we talk about God to credit or to his credit, we ascribe the value to the Emmanuel. Why is this confusion? Why? The African spiritualists do not go to the bushes to seek out Elohim at the altar. He goes to ask the Igigi or Igwe for help by way of magic or by other forces. And yes, there are still some falling entities that walk in the wilds of Africa, but this video will not take you on a tangent that most people's mindset will not be even able to sustain. I will just say that many Africans do live the experience with aliens that live in caves in the mountains of the wilds. They seek these beings for magic as they did since eons of time. They tell you about the Nobo, the Igwe, or the Igwe, or Emanuela, even Jabulan, but never do they tell about Elohim. I am going to explain why. Here is a shocking truth about many people in West Africa. I do not know if it is still common in these more modern days, but it should still be an adage somewhere. The Africans would say that if you were going to church and you come across a white man, you should return home for you have already seen God. This white man, from long before they knew white people, was going around dishing out power for favor and to be their God. When the first white man came to the African shores, the people marveled that the visitors had the appearance of the gods. Because I keep bandying the word God, I want I won't be judged for not giving you the clarification. You are confused into being carried away by the definition of God. God is a supreme being. God is a master. It has degrees to the value of the word. For example, a school teacher at a bachelor's degree is a God that to that level. A school teacher at a bachelor's degree is a God to that level. A PhD is a God to a higher degree. There is also a God of gods because the respect for higher and lower degrees. God is supremacy. The governor is supreme until the president walks in. I am thinking that this clarification might remove some of the obstacles to the conversation for us. After Elohim left the earth, the dark-skinned Elohim, and I mean the one in the mothership that everyone is afraid to talk about, after he left, a race of people that resided upon the moon and Mars watching space stations arrived here. These people were white. They came to this realm, or around this realm, as servants to Elohim. But in the absence of the God, they came to the earth and made a plan to corrupt mankind and change the history of the story. They would impose themselves to the history of the Elohim legacy and become the gods in space of the departed Elohim. They first came with a number of about 200. Their method of land piracy is that same strategy copied by mankind across all these ages. Azra, or Israel in the Bible, destroyed Canaan's babe and suckling, claiming that they were being punished because someone saw someone else's balls and God was punishing the crime or something like that. In other words, it was obviously no good reason. The purpose was to make sure that the rightful heirs of the land were all dead. Genocide. No child would come to grow and claim that title. Oh, I want my land title papers now because I am the heir. No child would be allowed. Columbus tried to destroy all the dark Indians in Jamaica in order to never be challenged as the first to discover that place. So he discovered the land that was filled with the people that he did not want to be the discoverers of the land. Black people from West Africa were living even in Jamaica before the European new big ships. But that's another story. I am just using these examples to paint a clear picture. So after Elohim left, the Iggy Iggy came to change the history of how things were and become the gods. They taught and add Earthman with what science they knew. However, Earthman was already found to be more brilliant in science, and many were already proving themselves before the Elohim left. And this was the point that made Elohim confident in the toddlers. Certain higher mysteries were taught to them. Even people like Enoch were given very high mysteries. Still, the Emmanuel became an evil god to them, profaning the handiworks of Elohim, that Elohim had to return and destroy them. So the Elohim did come back to destroy Emmanuel. However, their blood was already mixed with the blood of mankind. So Emmanuel remained in the spirit realm among mankind, and also a few of these living in the spirit realm upon this earth dimension. Every time an albino or a white child was born to mankind, it was a child of the gods from thence, or so people would think. Not of the Elohim, but of the God they knew. For after time and all ages, the God they knew would not be Elohim. It would be Lord Emmanuel, Emmanuel. These were the children of man that naturally came with different complexions and less pigmentation because of ancient race mixing. The history and time had changed and the legacy of godhood was stolen. When these odd children were born, like at the birth of Aisha and Jacob, or of Noah, which made his father run in fear, people thought that they could glean power in some way. Some sacrificed them, which is still unfortunately done to albinos in Africa today. They better be careful how they walk the streets of Nigeria in certain places. And the people that sacrifice them take their body parts to make potions sometimes. Once in a while, they were seen because they were rare. And we are going back to the ancient time. Once in a while, they were born. So once in a while, they were seen. But the rate of how these people were being born is a lot more than today. Today, we hardly see white people and albinos being born among Africans, but it's still happening every year. Even those with blue eyes and blonde hair, just the same, no different from the person who is born in Europe to white folks. So once in a while they were seen, but they were rare, and they looked like the gods to the people at the time. Although these Emmanuel gods were destroyed by Elohim, no, it was in man tormenting man. Then man became his own usurper. They decided to conquer, to rule, and to do this by causing all kinds of conflicts in mankind. They would set one against the other, even children against their parents. They would gather as many of the white sons and daughters as they could find and cultivate them as estranged from their own. They brought them around the Mitan region, where there was a great coven of black priests holding the highest scientific wisdoms given to earth by Elohim. By this act of natural selection, they took man's white children, which are still born in Africa every now and again, I repeat, and made them believe they were different, so that they would be a race opposed to their own people, their own mothers and fathers. They began by befriending the black Caucasus originals. These white estranged people began their act of changing history by befriending the black Caucasus originals before destroying them to steal the knowledge and by it to go and change the history of how things were in the world. First thing they became, first thing they imposed into was the legacy of the Caucasians. So now if you ask who were the Egyptians, who do you see? And if you ask who were the Caucasians, who do you see? And if you ask who were the indigenous of Australia, well, it's not there yet. But of Japan, it is already there. They were told that they would be as the gods, to be established and set as the beacons of light. But it was never to be as they said. These people were only being used in a mammoth plot to divide and rule the world and make paradigms, while using white children as house slaves against black ones, and better yet, using white children against their black parents. If you go back to the days of slavery, you will see a house slave causing destruction to a field slave with zealous fortitude, because the master gives him a notion of privilege to believe in. It is superficial and not real, because it cannot be real. The gods were not white, and they were not even black. Black people are not black, and white people are not white. They were of darker hue, but like reddish brown clay. I hope this solves the confusion about the description of God. In instances in the Bible as well, many references to God is not talking to the same sovereign. It is too much to go through it now. But if you open your eyes, you will see. The Bible talks about Elohim and Emmanuel as if it is interchangeable, like as if Elohim is Emmanuel. But this serves not the purpose of Elohim, or at least they need not mind. It has no effect on them. It affects not the Elohim. However, it serves the purpose of Emmanuel, and this is what he needs: sheep and sacrifice. Peace out.